to say how old you are.
Oh, I don't care. I don't care.
I know you show up in a census from 1930, right?
A little higher.
Yeah, what census did you show up in? What was the first, was it 1930?
No.
Could that have been? No, 1940?
No.
Not 1920 census.
28.
Right, right. 1920. So she looks wonderful. We love her. And she is going to, I have been looking forward to this project.
Eventually I'm going to talk about the hotel, but first I think you ought to have a prelude into how my father managed all this. And this picture, he was born in 1872, and before he was 30, which this is about the time in this picture, he'd become a very successful man through his restaurants, his hotel, the coal business, and theaters. And I first learned about what my father did in his beginnings when I was about 5 years old. I was shopping with my mother in Mosher Brothers. Everybody hear of the Mosher Brothers? Well, they had a meat market on Charles Street. And while we were shopping there, she told me about my father, and that was the building where his first restaurant was, and that he was about 14 years of age. Now that's a little young to start a restaurant. But if you go through the history books, it'll say that his first restaurant was near the Beeson Hotel. You all know where the Beeson Hotel was? No?
No.
Where Church Street and South Street meet at corner. And what's the name of the statue that was there? So Mabel, that corner. Anyway, that's where the Beeson Hotel was. And this is his business was right across the street from the Beeson. Of course, the Beeson was torn down, and but the building where my father's first restaurant was is still standing, and it is where Lash Nestor had the trophy store there, still standing.
Yeah.
That was his first restaurant. And my mother said, I thought he was 14 years of age, but that's kind of ridiculous. He was 17 when he had his first restaurant. Well, it's really hard for anybody to believe that you didn't know anything about what your family did for a living, but we had no idea what we did because we didn't go anywhere, all the family, the children. And so all we knew was how to run a restaurant and to have a hotel. So at that first restaurant that he had, he served 100,000 people for a meal. That's a lot of food for a 17-year-old particularly. We all knew about the restaurant building and the hotel business because my sister-in-law, that's what we played. When we had a hotel, we'd rent out a room, we'd serve you food, we'd do everything that you did in a restaurant. But that's how we knew a lot about it. And if you have any questions as we go, just let me know. He owned the Mahaney House, the St. Charles, the Exchange Hotel, and the Duquesne. And I just heard recently about him owning the Duquesne Hotel, which was called the Duke for short. Anybody ever hear of it? Did you hear of it? She has. I never heard of it before. It was supposed to be between where Stories Square is and the State Theater. And there used to be a 5 and 10 in there. Woolworths, was it not? Murphy's? Okay. Oh, this my niece, Linda Wagner, helped me assemble all these pictures. And she put this one in, and I said, why? And the only thing I can come up with is that he is the one on the left-hand side in a derby. We wore a derby in the winter and a straw hat in the summer. Where it is, I think it's
I bet that's it.
That's it.
the cemetery in
I think that's
Gettysburg.
Yeah, that's Gettysburg.
He was very social. I guess that's the reason my niece selected his picture. You want to go up? Thanks. Now, this is the, wow. This is the Mahaney house. And this is the lobby, and the bar room of the Mahaney. This was a very elaborate hotel, and the menus are fantastic. I forgot to put them out. They're all over there in that notebook. I have some other original menus, which are pretty fancy for Uniontown, I would say. And there's also a complete article. So well organized. It was like this when I worked, wasn't it, James?
Some things don't change.
I worked at Fort Necessity for 28 years with James Tomasic, who's now head of Friendship Hill.
Yeah.
So he's well aware of me. These things will be up here if you'd like to see them. This is the newspaper article about the Mahaney Hotel, and these are the menus, which are really something to see. Quite a place, quite a place. And after 3 years, he sold it. Why? I don't know. He'd start businesses and he'd sell them, and off we would go. Now, does anybody know about the Mahaney? Do you know about that? I'd like to know where it was.
I know we were just asking where it was. I know.
I think it was in the, was it Kresge's was on next to Metzler's?
Yeah.
Across the street?
Yeah.
Okay. And there was a whole block of Kresge's, right? And then came up to the Manus Theater.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in that block, if I remember correctly, when I was when I worked for Uniontown newspaper, we used to walk up and down the street and had a gossip column that I collected from the locals there. It was there, and by that time they had just a step up to the hotel, and it was on the second floor at that time. So, and at that place, they served over 2,000 customers in a month. So that was quite a busy place. And the article about the Mahaney is right here if you'd like to see it. The recipe, the menus are here. Oh, these are the businesses that he had in Uniontown. Okay? He was quite an entrepreneur for the time, because this is 1909 when most of this takes place. Next. He bought 300 acres of land in Farmington and built a home there. And this is where the gates on the road, and if you traveled 40, it's right on 40. They were there until about 2 years ago, and the people who own it now tore the pillars down. But those were the pillars that took you back to the house. The house is still standing. It was built in 1909 or 7 at that point.
Where were the pillars, Carney?
Right on 40, in front of the,
I remember seeing.
Just
do you remember?
Oh, below them.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Below,
Beautiful.
going west.
Okay.
West.
This is the house, as I said, 1907, 1909 it was built, and in the center where all those flowers are is a rowboat, which somebody buried and planted flowers in. Okay. Next, this is the fireplace, and this is a very elegant house. It really is quite attractive. And next, this is my mother and my father, and probably the oldest sibling, which was Lila.
Excuse me, Carney. You say the house is still standing?
Still standing.
Who owns it now?
The brothers, or what's
the
everybody
Bruderhoff?
call them?
The Bruderhoff.
The Bruderhoff. The Bruderhoff does. Yes. And how they you know they split every room in to make rooms. How do you split a room when you've got a fireplace that's the center of a room? Oh, and these are my siblings. Minus one, and that was me. I hadn't been born yet. I
Now,
love
where
that
was
picture.
that taken? Do you
Okay,
know?
now you get into building the,
Was that on Beeson? Was that?
yeah, that was on Beeson. We
Can
lived
you
on
go
Beeson.
back just for a sec?
To the house?
Yeah, if you the one where they
No,
call the children.
the children, yeah.
There.
Yeah, so that is standing in front of your house.
Yeah,
Your
it's
house
in
is
the backyard. And,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
remember?
Yeah.
We lived across the street from where the Bucklers live now.
What year was it?
Lila is the oldest. Charles, you may have known, he was a manager at the State Theater. And Sister Nancy was, she and her husband ran the hotel. And my brother Jim also was the hotel manager or owner. And that's Sister Ruth.
Yeah, look what cutie. Aw.
Then they start to build the hotel, the lake. And it's difficult to find anything on this other than the fact that they started to build it in 1907, and the stream that they dammed up was called Dead Man's Creek, and they built a 300-foot dam at the end down where Route 40 is today, and then they created a mile-long lake, and by 1910, and they would have teams of laborers that would be filled with dirt, wagons filled with dirt to haul out of there or down to the dam when they built the dam. And then they sprinkled the dam with water, and men would walk back and forth across the dirt to pack it in. And then they added rocks to it also. That is a very, very solid dam. And while they were doing this, then they put in, they call it a sluice, and there are gates on that, on the dam to open and close it so that when they wanted to lower it or whatever they wanted to do, they could. And then there were spillways still on either side. And when the Bruderhoff come in, they took the lake out, and they probably took out the